Good evening and welcome to live coverage of ULA's Atlas V launch of Amazon's inaugural Project Kuiper mission. I'm Caleb Weiss, a systems engineer at ULA, and I'm joined by Britt Porcelli, a propulsion engineer. It's great to be back here, Britt, after we got scrubbed scrubbed during our first attempt due to weather.
Yeah, Caleb, it's always a pleasure to be here with you in the booth. And for all of you joining, we are actually reporting from you live from ULA's Advanced Spaceflight Operations Center here at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Liftoff is scheduled for 7 p.m. Eastern at the opening of today's 2-hour launch window. Launch windows vary by mission and are determined by the payload's destination. Today's mission is going to low Earth orbit, or LEO as we refer to it, and has multiple orbit insertion opportunities. So for today's flight, if the rocket and the payload are ready, and if weather permits better than last time, we expect to have Atlas lift off at 7 p.m.
And always nice to have a 2-hour window. Sometimes we have much shorter ones, even instantaneous. So to have that extra time, just in case the team is working any issues today, is really nice to have. We'll be covering today's mission through the start of second stage engine first burn. For additional real-time mission coverage, follow along with our live blog at ulalaunch.com. And if you enjoy watching our live broadcasts, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for access to future missions, launch highlights, and behind-the-scenes rocket content.
At this time, the team is not working any issues and we're proceeding towards a 7 p.m. liftoff. Today's mission is dedicated to 3 teammates who are no longer with us. Let's hear about their legacies.
Today's flight is dedicated to Bob Howard, Pat Murphy, and Scott Connolly.
Pat again. We were talking earlier, Brett, how it's nice to be back here after getting scrubbed for weather during our first attempt. We were scrubbed out for cumulus clouds, but those weather rules are just as important as any other flight rule. So we got to take them seriously. But weather's looking a lot better today, and glad to be back here, ready to get this mission launched.
Yeah, and that's just one of the perks of launching off the coast of Cape Canaveral. So you can have beautiful weather all day long, and then in an instant, it can turn to a heavy rainstorm coming in the afternoon. And so our team just has to be poised and ready for any time that there's a scrub or any time that the clouds open up and let us have an optimal launch window.
And this was even more unusual in that we had kind of a longer time in between attempts. Normally we can turn around and launch again the next day, but in this case, even though the launch vehicle and the payload were both ready to go and have been the whole time, we needed to just give a little bit of time for some conflicts to work out on the range, and we're back here today ready to go. And we're actually coming up on a planned hold, which means that as the launch team and the launch clock are getting closer to liftoff, the clock will pause for short periods of time to allow the team to resolve any issues that may occur in the hours leading up to launch.
And if you were listening in last time, you will probably be familiar with launch counts that you
4
might
minutes and
already know.
holding.
The L
This is the
minus
program
time refers to
15-minute
the
hold.
actual time
LC
remaining
switch
until launch.
not
And the
ready.
T minus time refers to the time printed on the countdown clock that reflects the hold and is paused for an exact amount of time until the hold is released.
And by building in this time, we give ourselves a higher probability of an on-time liftoff. Today's countdown, which can be seen in the top left corner of your screen, uses the T minus time. And that time stops at T minus 4 minutes, which you can see we have entered the hold and we are at T minus 4 minutes and holding. And we are still taking that live look at Atlas V on the launch pad. And as the countdown continues, our team is taking the final steps in preparation for liftoff. So we're looking at the rocket. You see the first stage, also known as the rocket's booster stage, which is the large tank on the bottom. That is actually 2 tanks, one filled up with RP-1 fuel and the other with liquid oxygen. Of course, those two mix in the combustion chamber inside the RD-180. They're burned, and that's what gives the rocket its thrust. The other interesting thing is that that liquid oxygen on the outside, because it's so super cold, the outside of the tank frosts over, and that's why you see that bronze tank actually looking white after it's fueled.
Atlas is also equipped with the Centaur upper stage, which drives the payload during the second phase of its flight to its final orbital destination in space. The payload fairing, or PLF, completes the rocket and provides the aerodynamic shape necessary for the climb to space. And as you can see on the upper stage in the PLF, we'll see the logos for Amazon, Atlas, ULA, as well as the American flag. So let's learn a little bit more about how ULA builds the Atlas V rocket.
Engineered in Centennial, Colorado.
From space.
It all starts with a count.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T minus 4 minutes and holding. Following liftoff, viewers watching the launch from Florida and points north and east might be able to see the Atlas V in flight. To get a closer look at this visibility map, check out at ULA Launch on social media.
Very cool. Of course, everybody thinks of seeing a rocket launch right here close to the pad, but even those all up the east coast of the United States will be able to see that light streak across the sky with an evening launch like we have tonight. Taking another look at the launch pad, all 27 of those Kuiper satellites tucked nicely in the 77-foot payload fairing there of our Atlas V rocket.
And this Atlas V rocket is actually our 551 configuration, so it's a 5-meter payload fairing with 5 SRBs, and that's going to bring a lot of power and a lot of thrust to the rocket, allowing it to exit Earth's atmosphere and get to our orbital insertion in our low Earth orbit destination.
That's right, with all 5 solids and the RD-180, 2.7 million pounds of thrust at liftoff for this largest Atlas V configuration that we fly today, maximizing the payload capacity to get as many satellites on orbit as we can tonight. So pretty excited to see this.
As we get closer to the opening of our launch window, let's have a look at the weather forecast the launch team just received from Space Launch Delta 45 Weather Officer Brian Belson.
Yes, Brian is not on with us tonight on another assignment, but he did hand us the forecast. We do have a probability of violating launch constraints between 25 and 35%. It actually starts out lower at the beginning of the window, and then at the 20% and increases up to 35% as we make our way through the window. Ground winds are 17 knots out of the east, and temperature is 73 degrees. Primary concern for launch today is cumulus clouds, anvil clouds, and surface electric fields. So we are watching the weather very closely, as we always do. As we mentioned earlier, those weather rules are just as important as any other flight rule, but this weather today looks much better than our first attempt.
That's right, Caleb. And these weather rules are designed to keep the vehicle safe from wind, lightning, and other potential weather risks. And we mentioned earlier about measuring the surface electricity, and that's basically the smarter way for saying that we are watching the lightning and the potential for it to be in this area. One thing that we always notice here when you get a live look at Atlas on the pad is that you have 4 lightning towers situated around Atlas. And so that basically is there as a mitigation strategy. If there is lightning in the area, it's supposed to conduct through the towers instead of hitting our rocket and our very precious payload.
Very good. And you can get a better view of the clearer skies that we have. Still some clouds in the area, but still proceeding toward launch with acceptable weather right now.
SRB ignition enabled.
Box 2, verify CISA purge flowing GN2 to the CISA.
Verified.
OSM, verify the FCO, ROC, and OSM whole fire switches are in the proceed position.
Ready to proceed.
RLM, verify red light monitor event table are in the correct configuration for terminal count. Verified. RC, verify solar radiation acceptable for launch.
Verified. Launch on time verified.
Roger. LC, switch to the ready position. All steps are complete prior to the status check.
We remain in the planned 15-minute hold as we continue towards liftoff. In a few moments, ULA launch conductor Scott Barney will poll the team for the final go to pick up the launch countdown. The launch coordinator conducts the launch team during countdown similar to how a symphony conductor is coordinating an orchestra.
28 engineers are polled to confirm the rocket is ready to proceed. This is the final status check for all Atlas vehicle systems, ground systems, and the payload, as well as the U.S. Space Force Eastern Range. Let's listen in as he performs the poll.
-8 minutes. minus 7 minutes.
Status check to proceed with terminal count. Atlas Systems, propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Centaur Systems, propulsion. Go. Pneumatics. Go. LO2.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
Hazgas.
Go.
Electrical Systems, airborne.
Go.
Ground.
Go.
Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
GCQ.
Go.
Op support.
Go.
Com.
Go.
Availables.
Go.
ECS.
Go.
Redline monitor. Go. Quality.
Go.
Op safety manager.
Go.
ULA safety officer.
Go.
Vehicle system engineer.
Go.
Anomaly chief.
Go.
Range coordinator.
Go.
Launch director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. ALC. Verify T0 is set for 2301 Zulu.
Verified.
Is complete and the team is go for launch.
From now until liftoff, launch conductor Scott Barney and the launch team will continue reporting the final steps in today's countdown.
This includes verifying propellant levels and pressures in the booster and Centaur fuel tanks, as well as arming the ordnance for ignition, separation, and flight termination systems.
At T-minus 1 minute, the range confirms it is in a green condition for launch, assuring there are no nearby constraints like boats, planes, or weather, and that all tracking systems are operational. At T-minus 25 seconds, you'll hear Go Atlas, Go Centaur, Go Kuiper. This is the final status check for the rocket and the payload.
To dampen the acoustic shock at liftoff, at T-minus 6 seconds, the launch pad's water deluge system activates, followed a few seconds later by the RD-180 booster engine ignition. Then, after seeing Atlas lift off, you'll hear flight commentator Sarah Bailey Glasgow providing the updates as the rocket ascends. So, as you might have noticed, voices playing in the background of this broadcast, that is actually voices being played on our Channel 1 broadcast, which is our internal net system. So hearing that provides a unique commentary that you normally don't see in this industry, and it kind of gives you a feel of what our exact engineers feel when they are sitting on console here. So we are listening to that together live.
Yeah, very cool to be hearing Channel 1, the launch conductor, as well as the team as we proceed into these final minutes prior to launch. You'll hear them working through all those final steps leading up to the T0, which is now 1 minute past the hour at 7:01 Eastern Time.
Yeah, and thinking about how big this moment is and how excited we are to partner with Amazon, that is about to bring a constellation that's basically going to change the world in terms of internet connectivity. And it's really cool that we're doing this on Atlas, which is the OG of rockets. And Atlas has launched so many unique missions and unique payloads and set so many records in the space industry. So it's really cool to see a payload that's both going to share on Atlas and Vulcan as we ride into this future of ULA together.
Really is cool to launch this new era, and we were so excited about talking about Atlas. We went right past the T-4 hold release, so you can see that hold is released and the clock is counting. We are at just about T-3 minutes and 18 seconds.
After liftoff, ULA's Atlas V rocket will fly northeast from Space Launch Complex 41. Here's a look at today's flight.
For those of you just joining us, I'm Caleb Weiss here with Britt Porcelli for today's live coverage of ULA's Atlas V launch of Amazon's Project Kuiper satellites.
At this time, the team is not working any issues and we're proceeding towards our liftoff at 7:01 p.m. Eastern.
Range green.
And we just came inside of T-minus 1 minute.
Stable at step 3.
Verify ECS reduced for launch.
Verified.
Status check.
Go Atlas. Go Centaur.
Go KA-01.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. We have ignition, 2, 1.
Ignition and full thrust. 5 good SRBs.
And liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket, carrying satellites for Amazon's Project Kuiper internet constellation, marking the start of a new chapter in low Earth orbit satellite
U is
connectivity.
now on closed loop control. Engaging first throttle segment. And we've completed our pitch program. Engine operating parameters continue to look good. And we've successfully completed our roll program. Hydraulics continue to operate nominally. Mach 1, Atlas V is now supersonic. Body rates continue to look good. Engine continues to operate as expected. Throttling back up.
You are hearing Sarah Bailey Glasgow providing launch vehicle ascent data.
We are now 7 miles in altitude, moving at 1,700 miles an hour. Now passing 1 minute into flight. Vehicle continues to pass through the center of the rain track as expected. SRBs continue to operate nominally. Throttling down, engine continues to burn as expected. Body rates continue to look good. Vehicle is now 1/2 of its liftoff weight. Max Q passing through maximum dynamic pressure. Coming up on SRB burnout. And we have good indication of SRB burnout, 10 seconds from SRB jettison. Throttling back up. And we have good indication of jettison of all 5 SRBs. Engine continues to burn normally. We are now 32 miles in altitude, moving at 4,000 miles an hour.
We just heard confirmation
Coming
of
up
the
on 2
solid
minutes
rocket
into
booster
flight.
jettison. These additional motors augmented the thrust at liftoff to give Atlas rocket an extra boost to reach its circular low Earth orbit destination. These SRBs are called GEM 63s, which stand for graphite epoxy motor and are 63 inches in diameter. The most obvious difference you'll see between Atlas and Vulcan SRBs is the nose cone shape. Vulcan has a conical nose cone, whereas Atlas has a duckbill or ogive shape. We're coming up here on our next mission event, jettison of the payload fairing. Let's listen in to Sarah.
Continues to move down the center of the range track and is moving at 5,300 miles an hour. Body rates continue to operate nominally. And we are now holding acceleration at 2.5 Gs in preparation for payload fairing jettison. And we have activated the Centaur reaction control system. And we have passed the Kármán line. We have exited Earth's atmosphere. Vehicle is now 1/4 of its liftoff weight. And we have good indication of payload fairing jettison. And good indication of CFLR deck jettison. Engine continues to operate as expected.
Flight commentator Sarah Bailey Glasgow just called out
Body rates
confirmation
continue to
of
operate.
payload fairing
Body rates
jettison.
continue to look good.
The composite fairing protects the spacecraft as it pushes through the harshest parts of the atmosphere. Next, we'll hear callouts for cutoff of the Atlas first stage engine and separation of the booster stage, followed by ignition of ULA Centaur's second stage.
These events occur when the first stage has escaped Earth's atmosphere, getting above the Kármán line and into space. The Centaur upper stage with the Kuiper satellites attached then takes over on a trajectory to a precise location in space. Let's listen in as we approach these milestones.
Body rates are smooth. Hydraulics continue to look good. 30 seconds to pico. Boost phase chill down in progress. Temperatures are operating as expected. PU has gone to open loop control as expected. Engine continues to operate nominally. And we've completed boost phase chill down as expected. And we have good indication of booster engine cutoff. And we have good indication of Centaur separation. Restart on fuel and locks, good staging. Ignition and full thrust. Arlington is running nominally. Steering has been enabled as expected. Engines are continuing to operate as expected.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T+5 minutes. We just heard flight commentator Sarah Bailey Glasgow confirm the successful completion of today's early milestones in today's flight, and all systems continue to operate nominally. So what we saw today, we had a nice smooth countdown, beautiful weather, beautiful liftoff, and Atlas V is on its way to orbit to take those 27 Kuiper satellites, put them on their way, and really start this new era in internet connectivity. So Atlas is on its way to making history again, Britt.
And that's what you love to see, Caleb. You love to see a nominal launch, not working any issues, and the weather window work perfectly and open up right for us at the beginning of our launch window. So as we wrap up today's live coverage, we wanted to say thank you to all of you who have tuned in on today's flight and remind everybody that for more information about ULA and the Atlas V rocket, please visit ulalaunch.com and subscribe to our ULA Launch YouTube channel. And before we sign off, let's take one last look at today's liftoff.
And with
T-10.
that, ULA is wrapping up today's coverage of the historic first operational launch of Project Kuiper. It sounds like we're not going to get to see deployment, unfortunately, but we'll stay tuned for confirmation of that in the following hours, we would assume. But a beautiful launch of Atlas V from Slick 41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The launch schedule continues to go. We've got more launches tonight and through the night. Starlink 12-10 set to launch just a couple miles up the coast from Atlas in just about 3 hours from now. We'll, of course, bring you live coverage of that. In the middle of the night, we got a Vega C from French Guiana that we will also be bringing you live coverage of, a rare launch from the French Guiana, so we hope to see you then. But for now, that's going to do it for our TOP Canada studio. We will see you next time, because space is better together. Good night.